Hello everyone, my name is Kelvin Hart Jr. and today I'll be analyzing Ford Motor Company's statement of cash flows from its 2024 Form 10-K. In this presentation, I'll cover Ford's major sources and uses of cash, highlight the differences between net income and cash flow, and then discuss the company's financial strengths, weaknesses, and recommendations. I'll also connect Ford's financial practices to insights from recent research and industry trends. So let's start with where Ford's cash is coming from. In 2024, Ford generated about $15.4 billion in operating cash flow, which reflects the company's ability to produce liquidity from its core automotive business. On the investing side, Ford raised cash by selling about $12.3 billion in marketable securities and receiving $1.5 billion from joint ventures. From financing activities, the company issued $57.3 billion in long-term debt and a small amount through stock issuance. This heavy reliance on debt financing is consistent with research showing that capital-intensive firms like automakers depend heavily on external funding, particularly during industry cycles. Now, let's turn to how Ford used this cash. Operating uses include about $1.1 billion in pension contributions and additional working capital needs. On the investing side, Ford spent $8.6 billion in capital expenditures, invested in new facilities and EV technology, and purchased $12.3 billion in marketable securities. They also contributed $2.3 billion to joint ventures like Blue Oval SK, their battery partnership. For financing, Ford repaid $45.7 billion in debt, paid $3.1 billion in dividends, and executed $400 million in shared buybacks. As we can see, Ford balances very large inflows with equally large outflows. It is also important to compare net income to operating cash flow. Ford reported $5.9 billion in net income, but operating cash flow was much higher at $15.4 billion. Why the difference? Accrual accounting recognizes expenses and revenues that don't necessarily reflect immediate cash. Non-cash adjustments like depreciation and changes in working capital boost the cash flow figure. This highlights why investors and managers rely heavily on cash flow. It shows a clear picture of Ford's true liquidity and ability to fund operations. Looking at Ford's strengths, the first is consistent positive operating cash flow, which is a good sign of underlying profitability. Ford also produced about $6.8 billion in free cash flow, giving it flexibility to reinvest in innovation, pay down debt, or reward shareholders. This liquidity positions Ford well to continue funding research and development, especially in electric vehicles. Finally, Ford's ability to access debt markets remains strong, which provides additional stability and investment capacity. On the other hand, Ford faces some significant weaknesses. The company capital expenditures of $8.6 billion put a heavy strain on cash resources. While these investments are necessary, they reduce flexibility. Ford's reliance on debt financing exposes it to interest rate risk, especially in today's environment of high borrowing costs. The company's negative investing cash flow year after year reflects its high reinvestment needs. And finally, returning cash to shareholders through dividends and buybacks limits the ability to reinvest those funds back into the business. To conclude, Ford's operating cash flow is strong, but its capital intensity and reliance on financing creates risk. I recommend that Ford continues to focus on operational efficiency to sustain strong cash flow. The company should also moderate dividends and buybacks to preserve liquidity for future investments. And exploring alternative financing strategies like convertible debt or strategic partnerships could help balance equity and debt exposure. While strong operating cash flow and careful management of these risks, Ford is well positioned for stability and for leading innovation in the electrical vehicle market. Thank you to everyone who viewed this presentation. Here is the link to Ford's most recent Form 10-K. That way you can verify the information from yourself and see any additional cash flow line items to make your own assertions about Ford's financial position. Thank you again for allowing me to present this information to you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.